Here we are, northeast Victoria at Rutherglen at Morris's Wines. Going to go in and have a bit of a chat to Dave Morris about his muskets and wines and yeah, see what he can tell us about them, eh? Okay, well here's Dave Morris and yeah, can you tell us a little bit about the area, the Rutherglen area, Dave?
Oh, I'd definitely love to tell you about the Rutherglen area. I think it's a fantastic area for producing wines in Australia. No doubt you've heard about our world famous fortified wines, particularly the Muscat and Tokay, ports and sherries. We also can do very well in here. And I think one of the great strengths of this area is the temperatures that we can experience through the growing season. Not exceptionally hot, but just nice and steadily warm, and we've got a great long Indian summer, so it allows us a lot of time for ripening. Rainfall's not too much, we're probably about 24 inches, or that's about 600 mil in the old scale, and a lot of that's through the spring, so it allows the vine to get moisture and get good growth and set a good crop. And then through the summer the rainfall eases off. You can manage that with a little bit of irrigation in some of the vineyards around here. Most of our vineyards are dry grown though. And as I say, just that long ripening period, it allows to get the red varieties off a bit earlier and the fortified varieties to get up to very good Beaumays. And you know, some years you only get 16 Beaumays on the muskets, but then you know, every now and then you'll fluke the good years where you get up to 20 Beaumay, which produce excellent wines. So I think that's one of the keys to Rutherglen against other areas in Australia and maybe the world. The variety that's used for muscat is called Rutherglen Brown Muscat, or Muscat à Petite Grains Rouge, which is muscat with the small red berry. That produces the rose petal and raisiny characters that we're after in the muscat. There are other clones. There's the Muscat of Alexandrina, which is a big white variety. We don't use any of that, and there is also the black muscat, a larger berry, but no, we prefer the Muscat à Petite Grains Rouge, which is referred to sometimes as the Rutherglen Brown Muscat. And Tokay is a white wine, but it gets its colour from years of maturation in casks, where the muscat is a red grape variety. Right, once the grapes are picked, they arrive at the winery and we grab a sample of the grapes so we can test the sugar level, because we pay the growers on the sugar level that they arrive in the winery. Also, we have done a quality grading out in the vineyard as well. Once they're delivered to the winery, we lift them up on the hoist and tip them into the hopper over there, and then they're augured from there into a crusher. And I'll show you where they go from the crusher into the open vats. The fruit then drops from the auger with a chute into our crusher. The crusher is spinning around. The stalks are actually carried to the end and then dropped out and augured away. And the juice and the skins and the fruit fall into the hopper, and then from there they are pumped to the fermenters. As you can see, the grapes are now crushed into the fermenter. This was crushed yesterday. What we're doing is allowing it to have a partial fermentation. We find that if we leave it in contact with the skins for a while, it'll actually build up a little bit more character and get a little bit fullness. Also, if we allow a fermentation to occur, it actually gives the wine a bit more richness and a bit more character. So what we're looking at doing is leaving it in here until it ferments about 1 to 2 Beaumay. And then we will drain it off and press it. And we use this airbag press behind us to press it. And then it'll drain into an underground tank and we'll add the fortifying spirit. Right, the wine's been made at vintage time, and the main thing is then to get it into storage, and that could be concrete, stainless steel or oak cask like this. We'll rack it up, we'll line them all up, the wines that we make from that vintage, and we'll put them into light wines, and we might go from about 50 different muscat samples, for instance, down to about 5 or 6 different blends. And then those blends, we will be moving them to wood, because until they get into a wooden vessel, they don't start their maturation process. And what I mean by that is they've got to go into a cask so that the controlled oxidation can occur, the interreaction between the wine inside the cask and the air moving through the wood for the maturation and the chemical changes of the fruit to be gaining maturation characters. So blending is very important, and what I'll do is I'll show you some of the components of a blend and how they can actually go together and to make the finished wine. Righto, I'll just now give you a look at how we blend our Muscats and Tokays. We've got an example, a range of Muscats here, so it should give you an example. Now the first one, this one was actually only made 2004 vintage, so it's very young. Again, the spirit's not integrated with the fruit. You can see the softness and the flavour coming through, but it's a bit syrupy sweet. Give it time in a cask with maturation, it will get a lot richer and a lot more textured in the palate. So try that young one. You can see how the spirit is not integrated. It has got nice flavour and you can drink that, but it will only get better with age because the palate will fill out. Then we've got one that's 3-year-old. You can still see by the colour it's still fairly youthful and young. It's not as developed, but the spirit will integrate it by now. The fruit will be looking good, and the palate is starting to get a bit more richness and maturity to it. So I've tried it already. You can have a look at that.
I have to spit it out, do I?
It's up to you.
Yeah, you can really tell the difference, eh?
It's just starting to integrate a bit more together. Then we move to this one that's about 10-year-old. You can see the colour getting more mature, still brownish edges, but from the red grape variety it's ageing. That's some of that oxidation. Now, if, you'll get more mature fruit character on that. Now, have a look at that. It's still Muscat and it's still in balance. It's still fresh enough in fruit character, and the palate is getting a bit more intense as well. Is one of the things that I didn't mention with the ageing process in the casks is there's an evaporation loss every year, and that equates to about 3%. That's referred to the angel share, and with that loss, that concentrates the wine a bit more. So that's about 10-year-old. We move down the track a bit more. This is actually it's 25-year-old, this wine, and the colour's even getting heavier. The viscosity hanging to the glass is even richer. And I personally, you can see the richness there, but it's starting to get just a little bit tired and a bit stale because this has sat in a cask for 25 years, so it's losing a bit of, you know, desirable fresh fruit. You can tell by the nose that it's got richness and everything else like that. We need to freshen it up a little bit, if anything, but the palate's so redeeming because it's got such an amount of richness and intensity from those many years of ageing.
I can relate to that.
Right. And then further down the track, this one is just over 50-year-old, and you'll see the age coming into it with the olive green tinges to it. Now you smell it and you go, oh, you know, that's Muscat and it's interesting, but it's a bit tired and everything else like that. But the palate, you know, when you try that, that is really rich and intense. And I even personally classify it as it's that intense and that concentrated that it's probably too much of a good thing. But you know, right, but it is very rich, isn't it?
Nice,
yeah. So they're components that we would look at using in a blend. The first one, the 2004, no, we would leave that. We would leave it until it's a minimum of 3-year-old. We want to let it sit through a couple of summers and winters to naturally stabilise. Also, that allows the palate to get a bit more richness and integrate with the spirit and everything else like that. We had a youthful one. We would use that for freshening component. That adds the fruit. This is middle vintage years for weight of flavour. That will add a bit of fruit to it. That's tiring a little bit in the fruit, so we need these two to keep the freshness up. And this one is an essence. It's a very old, rich wine that, well, we haven't got a lot of it. We don't need a lot because a little bit goes a long way. So with putting a blend together, we'll use a little bit of the old, rich, intense base, and you can actually see just there how heavy it pours in. That's enough of that one. This one was about 25-year-old, a bit tired, but it'll add great weight, so we'll put some of that in. And then a wine that's about 10-year-old will help with the freshness component, but as I said, it has got good flavour richness by putting a reasonable amount of that in, and then just something that'll freshen it up. If we put too much of this in, it'll reduce the palate weight too much, but if we don't put enough in, we won't get enough floral fruit character, and sometimes it can be raisiny and sometimes it can be rose petal fruit freshness. So we'll just put a little bit of that in. That's probably about it, and give it a mix. Now we're after a good Australian premium muscat. If we have a look at it, now that's got nice age and good colour and everything else like that. You should smell it, and the aroma should be of integrated muscat fruit character, be fresh enough and not just old and stale and tied, and I think that's come together quite well. And the palate, should be round and smooth, good muscat flavour, but soft and textured, and just roll over the tongue, the nice soft gentle flavours. So see how that blend came up.
Oh yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, well, so that should be better than all the components, because it's putting together the fruit and the freshness with the richness and complexity and concentration of the flavours that's happened over the years.
That's amazing. Different it tastes.
Yeah, so that's how you blend up a muscat or a tokay. It's all the same. Again, tokay, you've got to wait till the spirit integrates. Some youthful material that will add some freshness, middle vintage years for the weight of flavour, and then some of that great old material which will just be the essence of the wine that you can build something around. Right, well, that gives you an example of the blending process. Now we will have a look at some a range of wine styles, and we can see how the average age of wines, while all being in balance, will come out differently. Righto, now we've got a range of muscats to look at. Again, from the youthful end to the richer, more intense, complex end. The canister liqueur muscat, average age about 5 to 6 year old. You'll see it's made from a red grape variety, so reddish colour. And then with the maturation, the reds are slightly turning to browns with that maturation, and then the last one is getting very rich and intense, and those green olive hues sort of coming into the wine. So youthful, fresh muscat, floral style. Muscat has often got two fruit characters. One is the rose petal muscat floral characters, and some are the rich, intense raisiny characters. We try and aim to get a bit of both, so that when we put the wines together, we will have both attributes that can complement each other. But some vintages we'll only get the rose petal character, and some vintages we get the raisiny characters, and that's why making a non-vintage wine we can sort of be more consistent and put the different pieces of the jigsaw together all the time. The muscats are a great dessert wine as well, because they will go with the richest, heaviest desserts that you've got, and everyone likes chocolate. Muscat will go with chocolate, and also because of the raisiny character, it will very much go with the fruit puddings and everything else like that, with the richness and raisiny fruit puddings, and also go with the cheeses where you have the raisins on the cheese platters and that. So you've seen a range of our muscats, and you can imagine those going with the food of the fruit puddings or the chocolatey dishes. The other thing is, when serving these, if you want them to be at your best for your customers, a full bottle open is always going to be the best. If it's stored for a while with only a small ullage, no problem. It won't go off overnight, but it will absorb oxygen. If you're storing it with only a lower amount in the bottle, that will flatten off and lose a lot of that fruit weight, and that's fruit freshness, and that's what you don't want to occur. So don't swirl it too much and let it absorb oxygen, and just be careful that it doesn't sit there for too long at a low height, and it'll absorb oxygen and then it'll flatten off and lose that fresh character that we so strive for in the wines. Righto, so there's a look at muscat and tokay from the vineyard right through to the customer's pleasure, and also with matching it with wine and food.